What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. Link will be in the description box below, as usual. This one's entitled The Black Male Experience, um, Reality Ignored. You know, let me preface this before I start. What I'm talking about is people's cognitive dissonance when it comes to the total reality when you're a black male. Now, we have our good things, we have our bad things. But when it comes to our bad things, everybody seems to have a PhD in black males. But when it comes to our good things, people turn very remedial very fast. So this is why I say the reality is ignored. Because if you can sit on a beach and you can say everything bad about the ocean, you should be able to say everything good about the ocean. Or if you can compare the ocean to the beach, you should be able to say the pros and cons of both, right? But people can't do that. Now, for some of y'all, you may not get it, you may get it. So let's get into it in real life scenarios. The reality that's ignored is if you say black men are criminals, and people say there are black men who are criminals, then you're going to also have to explain how black men who aren't criminals treated just like criminals when you can tell they're not criminals. How all of a sudden did a person just mentally go, well, we're going to turn this traffic stop into a reason to pull out a firearm? See, that's the reality that you want to ignore, because you don't. If you take a black male out of the situation who has a tail light out or a license plate out, or doesn't stop at a stop sign or red light, if it's not a black male, you're gonna get a ticket. They're not gonna pull out a gun on you. That's the reality I'm talking about. That's ignored. And for everybody to go, you gotta comply. Why don't he just? You're talking. You can't explain one reality. You can't explain what is the reason for needing a gun for a traffic stop. You know, the reality of these situations just act like you don't. People act like they don't exist. The passive aggressive interactions. See, people like to do stuff. We call it microaggressions, macroaggressions. But you want to ignore that you're doing it. Like um, you know how kids will poke at another kid until that other kid hits them. That's what people like doing. And then when you turn around and confront these people go, "What? What? What? I don't know what I do. What I do?" You know, if reality is ignored. And let's take Bill Cosby for instance. People just say he raped the women. Now, is it a lot in number? Absolutely. Does that make it look bad? Absolutely. But the reality is, who changes the reality is a, a settlement was reached. When you looked at the original lady's statements, she came off, and her mother Because who talks to somebody's mother about rape? They don't. So when the mother wanted to get more money from Bill Cosby and she agreed to having a settlement just to make the nonsense of it go away, when you wait until the last day before it's completely thrown away to restart this whole situation and then find 50 to 60 other people who all have contradicting stories. What I mean by contradicting, people will say this happened and then they'll say this happened and it's completely opposite. When you say, oh, this guy raped me, but you never went to the police, you never told family members or friends, but you show up 20, 30, 40, damn near 50 years later saying that's what happened. Now, the reality is this. If that's true, you can also say that about a family member. People who were molested and raped by family members, right? They should be able to go to jail, right? But if that can't happen in your reality, your own mind, if you can't process that in your own family experiences and in your own mind, how can you process that for him? You know? So now, that's the problem when I'm talking about with reality. The other thing, reality is ignored when it comes to. Let's compare that to Stephen Collins. Stephen Collins isn't black. He admitted on tape, though he was kind of set up. I will say that, but he admitted on tape to molesting or raping a little girl. But when people hear that, all of a sudden they turn their ears off. See, the reality is something is completely wrong in reality when you can ignore a person who admitted doing something, who admitted molesting a child, but you act like you didn't hear it. But you can come up in your own mind with all these reasons why a guy who doesn't look like he did anything, but probably cheat on his wife, did all these other things. You know, the reality that's ignored is the difference in pressure of life. See, everybody wants you as a black male to act like it's all fair while telling you that you got it harder than everybody, but telling you at the same time it ain't that bad, but not wanting to be you. What I mean by that is, recently there was that story about the cop who got his DNA test and he was 18% black. He was a white cop. So because his fellow police officers were teasing him, he in turn sued the police department for racial discrimination because how they made him feel that because he was 18% black. Now the reality is society sees this guy as a white guy. And here's the thing, everybody comes from black people, so everybody's gonna have black DNA. It is what it is. Um, even the people who teased them got black DNA. So all of a sudden, when the white guy is treated like a black guy, and he's a police officer, he treated black guys the same way his coworkers treated him. He probably thought it was inappropriate for them to sue him or the police department for racial discrimination, but all of a sudden he turns around and does it. Now, what does that mean? That means all of a sudden when you have to deal with the reality, it's unbearable. It's you need reparations. But you would probably be the same person that says you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So when a white, so in these times when white people can't deal with black realities, when people is just playing, he didn't get the for real. He got the play because they were just joking with him. Oh, they painted 18% on the Santa Claus, and I'm so disturbed. Now, the other reality is about that is you would think that he has thicker skin, if because black guys are supposed to have tough skin and be able to deal with so much. So, but at the same time, black men are supposed to not be as manly as other people. But when you put this reality to other people, they can't handle it. You know, sometimes I watch the Young Turks and Jink. Says he gets furious and mad if something were to happen to him, and then all of a sudden, all the excuses that would apply, all the reasoning that would apply to black men in a certain situation, you know, he can say that it won't apply to him because he's okay with being a human being and having human emotions, and maybe going off on somebody for being treated unfairly. See, when it's him, it's okay. I'm just using him as an example, but because he's Muslim, right? Everybody else who's non-black does the same thing, but you put somebody black in that scenario, all these people go, "Why did he react that way?" Oh, you can react that way, but this person can't. You know, Reality is ignored. Just like this fear. The reality is, people say they're afraid of black people, but some people are. Some people are looking for know they can get off scot free from killing a black person. See, so now you got to figure out which one is which. Are you generally scared? And most black males who interact with, society and law enforcement know the difference. You can look at these guys and see if they scary, which makes no sense because that means you shouldn't be on that job. But the other part will be if you're looking at somebody like I'm using my fear as an excuse to put a bullet in your head. Yes, this is my chance to live out my dream. And see, but when this is brought up, reality is ignored because people go, oh, well, it's a whole system put in place to support that reality. Now, when a system affects other people, people don't like it because that's unfair, but that's what the system was put in place for. This is the same country that um, executed 13-year-old black boys. George Stinney. This is the same country to this day throws people in jail, for months and years without telling them their bail was $2 or $5. It's black guys. This is the same place where, you know, guys do 20, 30, 40 years in jail for a crime they didn't commit. It's not who does this wind up being? Black guys. This is the same country where um, if you can't peacefully protest without people lying and making it about something else, just like Colin Kaepernick. You know, and when you can see Ray Rice, watch this. Ray Rice needs to never play again because he hit his wife. Josh Brown needs to get a raise for hitting his wife and beating his wife, you know, during the Pro Bowl. He doesn't never need to play again. They're both abusers, right? Now violence against women applied to one guy, but it didn't apply to the other, right? At the same time, the guy that protested needs to never play again. So here's the problem. what the reality is ignored. Reality.